All right, we're live. So instead of the podcast tonight, we decided to jump on Zoom and have a little chat, me and John. Anyway, because neither of us are technical wizards, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
anyway, we're going to, we've actually been waiting for this one for a while. We're going to talk to John. Well, actually, I'll just let him tell the story. It's
Yeah, no, sure. Yeah.
So John, just jump into her, buddy.
Yeah, not too long of a story, but I think it's one that's a little bit interesting. Anywho, um, well, I'll get right into it. Around 1983, thereabouts, my family and I lived in a house in Reserve Mines. Nothing too extraordinary about the house. It was a small, two-story, roughly sized house. It was set off the road a little bit, and on either side there's kind of like a little bit of a marshland on either side of it.
Yeah.
Anyways, the story behind the house was that we confirmed later was prior to us moving in, there was an old man and an old lady who lived there, and tragically, the older gentleman had suffered a heart attack, and he had passed away at the house. And approximately 2 weeks later, the old lady who was married to him, was so devastated by that whole death. She had swallowed some too many sleeping pills and had expired as well in the house. So we were the lucky people that had moved in, I guess, after that, if you want to call it that.
The Amityville.
Yeah, honest to God, yeah. So we were kind of doing. Now we didn't know that. I mean, now when I say we, I was only 3 years old at that time. So my parents, they were, it was unbeknownst to them that this had occurred there. They found out later. Uh, anyways, the first incident that happened that now my father told me the story many a times, as well as my mother, and they both matched up and seemed very credible. Anyways, the first incident was my father and my oldest sister were sitting on the living room couch, just watching TV, and I think myself and my sister were in bed because we were pretty little at that time. And my father said, just out of nowhere, it sounded like an old woman crying in the kitchen, plain as day. He says, absolutely, it was an old lady crying. You could just hear kind of like a little bit of a raspy voice, a lady. And he said it was bone chilling, just completely loud, very, very clear. You could tell. So he popped up with my sister and, told her, he said, come on, let's, no, come on, let's have a look. Now, funny, he said he was that scared. That's what he did. He told her to go with him. And he said they walked out into they walked out into the kitchen, and he said absolutely nothing, nobody there. And, the windows were all shut. It was kind of a cooler time of year. Because I even quizzed him on it. I said, sure it wasn't a cat that was outside, squealing or whatever, or something. And he said, oh, no, no, no. He said, this was plain as day.
Wow.
So it was that incident there that had happened. So that was really disturbing. Second one that had happened that they told me was my mother at that time had worked at the fish plant, and she kind of did some odd hours. She came home roughly about 2:30 in the morning, and had a little bit of leftovers from a thing at work there, a little bit of a function. And anyways, her and my father were sitting at the kitchen table and just kind of discussing the night, whatnot, and I guess from what they say, all of a sudden they just noticed something caught their eye to the right. And at the kitchen, the window that was right alongside the kitchen table, there was an old man's face in the window. My father describes it as having just like cold black eyes, just expressionless. Just kind of the face was kind of like really close to the window, just wide-eyed, like just black eyes, but no expression. Yeah, just extremely eerie, kind of almost like a grayish tinge to his face. And he said my mother let a scream go and was looking, and he said my father said he just watched it just kind of back away from the window, just like
Yeah.
So, anyways, he said he ran outside right away, and at that time, he had a 22 rifle. Wasn't going to shoot anybody, but just wanted to go outside. He said to scare this guy off. He thought it might have been a local drunk kind of thing that had lost his way at that time of the morning. So he said where the house was set off from the road a bit. He said you'd be able to plainly hear someone running away or making their way through the bushes or that swamp. Like there's no real quick exit from that house, unless you were
Yeah.
a track star kind of thing. And he said that he went around the house with a flashlight, looking, kind of hollering, whoever you are, get the hell out of here, all that kind of thing that you would do. He said that wasn't so much the scary part. He said when he went back in, he said he'd realized that that window was about 12 feet off the ground. And so he said that's when it really sunk in that, this is
Yeah.
something quite extraordinary. So he went outside right away, just to confirm, see if there was any ladder or anything like that, oil tank, anything under that window. There was nothing. So,
Wow.
like, just extremely bizarre, that occurrence.
I guess.
Yeah. In interest of everybody's time, I'll go on to the next one. There was another time my mom had come home from work, same time in the morning, roughly 2:30, 3 o'clock. My father recalls that he gets woken up by her, and she was just, irate to say the least. Back then, the Atari game was something everybody had, right? It was the Nintendo all the time. And anyway, supposedly this brand new Atari machine was in the kitchen sink. No water in it or anything, but it was in the kitchen sink. So my mother was just outraged that somebody would let it, probably an $800 machine in the sink, and was, just going up and down. My father screaming at him, and how could you, you're so irresponsible, yada yada. Anyway, my father swore. He said every night, he said he would take it and put it behind the floor model TV, which is, back then, they were huge, right? These were like major appliances, these TVs.
Oh,
And
2,000 pounds.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyways, he swore. He said he always put it back there. So in the morning, he thought maybe it was myself or my two older sisters, that had been just kind of mischievous and did that for whatever reason. Kids being kids and doing dumb stuff. So
Yeah.
what he did, rather than accuse us of it and letting us know what was up, he basically said, "Look, back then a quarter you could get a Nelson's chunk down the store or whatever you could get." So he said, "I got a quarter here," and he said, "Anybody that can get that machine from the back of the TV, I'll give you a quarter." So he said we tried like crazy. What he was hoping to see was that one of us would go grab a chair, something a little bit ingenuity to it, right? Grab a chair, get up, have a strategy, and get the machine.
Yeah.
He said we were there for about 35 minutes with our hands just red raw, trying to scale that TV every way we could to get that quarter. The fact
Wow.
that we didn't have a whole lot of money, so a quarter was a big deal to us.
Oh,
And
100%.
yeah, so that was really, really wonky. The other story that was disturbing about that house, there's a few, as you can tell so far.
Oh, yeah.
The other story that was disturbing, I had an aunt that time, and she was over visiting, and she worked at the same place my mother did. Anywho, before they kind of did a carpool to work sometimes, so she said she wasn't feeling really well, my aunt. She said, I'm just gonna go upstairs, lay down for a little bit, get wink of sleep before we go to work. So she went up, and according to my parents, she was up there for all of about maybe an hour, hour and a half. And what they recall is she just came pounding down the stairs, just like totally not making any sense, rambling, upset, crying, using some profanity. I got to get the out of here, and whatnot. They couldn't console her. She was just so frantic and panicky, and took off out of the house. And they ran upstairs to say, like, the name of God happened, to her, and all was well. There was nothing, there was just regular bedroom and whatnot. And I guess about 2 hours later, she had called, and she said, "Listen, I don't want to panic you. I don't want to alarm you and your family. I don't want to, I'm not on any kind of medication. I don't hallucinate." They knew, we said, "Of course not,"
Yeah.
And what she had told, she said, she was passed out, she was asleep. She said she felt somebody tapping at her toes really hard, like quite aggressively. And she said when she'd woken up, she said there was an old man with black eyes standing at the end of her bed, and a very cranky, serious look on his face. And it said to her, "You get the hell out of my house," is what he said. And she said it was very much real. It wasn't a dream. It was a hallucination. And she said, when I jumped up out of the bed and I ran out, like before she left the room, she turned to her right and looked. And she said, in her words, that bastard was still standing there looking at me. So she said, I knew it wasn't a hallucination or something. It was just so bizarre to her. And fast forward about 20 years, I was speaking with her in person, and interested in the stuff myself, I said, I said to her, what happened that day? And it wasn't 3 minutes into the story that she had the same tears again, like it had happened yesterday. Said the exact same story, and she said it's something I'll never forget. How creepy that was, how disturbing it was, and it kind of confirmed that there's more to it than what people think out there, right?
Oh yeah,
And
for sure.
yeah, yeah. The other couple other occurrences that used to happen was the shed in the backyard where the old fella used to have a workshop. Supposedly, if you went in there, there was like a heavy metal rasp that had to be like manually closed and whatnot to lock the door from the outside. And supposedly, if you were in there for any length of time, you would hear a click from the inside, and that rasp would be like it'd be closed right over. And supposedly, you had to articulate it a little bit to close. It wasn't something that the wind could just blow and lock you in there or something like that. So that was a real big kind of mystery of what was going on, and so that's a little bit weird. But I guess one of the final stories with that place was when we had moved out and we removed everything from the house. My father had said that he said he had left a toolbox upstairs. That was the last thing. He'd used it to take apart the beds and whatnot. And he told me, he said, as true as a father to the son that wouldn't lie, he told me, he said, John, he said, I opened that door, he said, and I walked up the stairs and I took about 3 steps up, and right in my face, he said, I didn't see anything. He said, but I heard the old lady crying like she was on the 5th stair, loud and raspy and just boo-hooing. And
Oh
he said,
man.
it sent a shock through him so much. He said he just ran out the front door, busted the lasp on the door like in desperation to leave, and he
Yeah.
said I dare not look back, right? So anyways, but that house still stands now. It's abandoned. And another, well, you know what, like I mentioned to you one time, Jason, there was another story where well, I remember a local paper boy. I was a paper boy at the time too, this around 94 or something like that. He had told me that he had an experience at that house too, unbeknownst to
Really?
him that I had lived there. Yeah.
Wow.
The family was gone, but they wanted him to keep delivering the newspaper. And he said when he went up to the house, he said there was he said an old lady's face looking in the window with like black eyes and just looked like a hag. He said enough so that he just dropped his papers and took off running. Yeah, I'll never forget. That guy's name was Eddie Meatball. He was a paper boy in the
Can you
area,
imagine?
and he had no idea that I had lived there, or he didn't. It wasn't a setup or nothing like that to me, and
Wow. So do you have any idea when that house like became abandoned, like the last family that's out?
geez, you know what? It's got to be a while because I've seen it abandoned now for quite some time, and so I'm not sure. And Jesus, Jason, the stories even continue because I remember, like I told you, of all days, my wedding day, the first morning when I was having breakfast for the best man, and his mother just started the conversation. She said, did you used to live, in reserve mines years ago? I said, yes. And she said, did you live in a house that she described the house? I said, yeah. And right to the point, she said, that's full of spooks, she said.
Wow.
And I said, oh boy. And she said, yes. She said her best friend lived there. And supposedly, same thing, would hear these phantom footsteps everywhere, hear the loud crying, some weird, odd things they couldn't explain. And seemed to be kind of a transient house. People move in, move out. And I mean, who in the hell are you going to tell, right? That there's spooky stuff going on like that. That's not something you really want to get around to some people. I mean,
Oh,
I think
exactly.
a lot of people now are a little more open to it. You know what I mean? Like it's,
Yeah.
like here we are having a discussion about it. But yeah, the house is. I definitely say there's something going on there. Those past residents, they at that time they weren't ready to move out yet. You know, yeah. But,
Wow. So that's
stuff. Yeah.
crazy, eh? So we'll have to I think what we're gonna have to do is you said it's abandoned now, right?
As far as I know, yeah. There was one day I had enough guts. I drove up to it. This would be about 3 years ago, and anybody else driving up to it, you wouldn't you wouldn't get a feeling. But I'll tell you, I drove up to it, and it was just eerie, knowing what goes on in that house. I mean, I'd never compare it to like Andyville or anything like that, but I'll tell you, it's not a house that I'd want to say that I'm gonna keep residents there.
That's
family.
terrifying. I mean, you think of like, you watch shows like, Supernatural and stuff like that, and like a figure will appear with just the jet black eyes, right? And that's
Yep, yep.
so. I mean, and not saying that the entities that are there are demons, um,
Yep.
but like from what you've said, they don't sound overly welcoming.
No, no, I don't think so. It was almost like they were a bit territorial. They kind of accepted us, I guess, because we were family, maybe because,
Yeah.
there was
Wow.
little kids there. But if you weren't a member of that house and you were staying over, I guess you're in for a scare. But yeah, no, those stories. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it's the third person I'm telling the story, but like anybody else out there, if your father or your mother sits you down and they have a very close heart to heart with you, and they've been telling you the same thing for years now, and it's very sincere. I mean, you got to put some weight into it, right? I mean, myself, I was only
Yeah.
3 years old, so my memory of that, God knows, right? But may or may not have happened with myself. But I
Oh,
know I got the
exactly.
blame for locking my father in the barn a couple of times. But at 3 years old, I couldn't reach the last, and that was soon found out. But that
Yeah.
didn't stop my nanny at that time from spanking my arse and accusing me of it. And then till my father had enough sense to say, "Look, he can't reach for that." So
Yeah.
uh,
How's he doing that?
so that ghost owes me one, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another wooden spoon survivor, eh?
Yeah, but it is funny though, like I say, how the other stories come to me just later on in life, where people would just mention it. Like it's the same with that foolish story I told you with the other paper boy. When we were walking past that house, he
Yeah.
just he pointed it right out and said, "See that house there?" and told me, and then it was kind of disturbing for me because I'm like, Jesus, man, I lived there, and that was I was kind of hoping it wasn't real. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That the story
Yeah.
was kind of fake, because
Crazy.
it's a bit disturbing, right? So
Yeah. But I think we
yeah,
should definitely look into it a little further.
yeah, for sure. I think it's not that I'd ever want to dare provoke anything, because I think you know there is something to it. There's like I said before, there's way too much smoke for no fire to just readily dismiss ghosts
Yeah.
and supernatural stuff and all that. But I think there's definitely something. There is something there. You know,
Oh, it seems
yeah,
like it.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
like you
And
said, it's abandoned now. So I mean, and if they are
yeah,
right, they're not gonna take too kindly to, you know,
yeah,
not that we're
yeah,
saying if it's abandoned, we're gonna smash in through the door and,
yeah, yeah. That's right.
start a fight with them.
Yes, God, yeah.
I don't think we'll win that one.
No, I don't think. Yeah, and I can't run that fast, so I don't know.
No, I know. I hear you.
We may
Yeah.
need one of those proton packs or whatever there, so that we can.
Yeah. Yeah. Two of us would be laid out in the driveway. My be gone. Your back would be gone. Yeah. Yeah.
Honest to God, yeah, yeah. I'd slip in some dog shit probably halfway down the driveway, and yeah, it'd be quite a scene.
Yeah. 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 Two
Yeah.
men just screaming and crying, trying to get the hell of away from a house.
Oh yeah, and you know what? And I think no matter how tough of a guy you are, how prepared you are, you've seen some friggin' entity coming around the corner,
Mhm.
you're gone.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter how big you are. If an old man
Oh,
shows up with black eyes and tells you his house, you get the hell out of his house.
yeah, yeah. Honest to God, and that's what he said too. She told me in a very loud, clear, pronounced voice.
Mhm.
Um, how a ghost can talk with no larynx, I don't know. I don't know the science behind that, but
Mhm.
oh no, like for somebody like an adult lady who is very reputable too, right? Has a job, has had one, raised a couple of kids, very responsible. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you, for her, she's a tough chick, and for her to break down into tears after
Yeah.
20 years or more, that's something to be said for that too, right?
Oh, absolutely. And going back to your father, what does your father have to gain from telling you guys that stories as you get older?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if it was around a camp story and he was telling people just for entertainment purposes or whatever, but oh no, in a very matter of fact way, he had told me this over the years,
Yeah.
and it was kind of it's something that happened to him, right? And he became a believer after that. He said there's definitely something to it. These kind
Wow.
of stories too, I think they're, unless you've been through it yourself, it's almost like describing somebody an elephant that's never seen one, even in a picture. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You'll never
for
quite
sure.
know until you go through it yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah, you gotta, and that's what I think we'll do, like you say, and whether it's, on the podcast or on here, whatever, uh,
Yep,
start talking to other people about their experiences in, a haunted house. And
absolutely.
yeah, I think it's gonna be, it's a lot of fun,
Yeah,
especially in the winter when you don't wanna be out in the
yeah.
garden when it's -30 out. It doesn't.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we were in Sydney Mines at the Chapel Point there
Okay.
a couple of winters ago in February. Brandon can attest to this. I can't remember who else was, me and Brandon. I can't remember who else was there, but
Yeah.
I think, I don't even know if we made it an hour. We might have made it an hour, and then literally
Yeah.
you're shaking and your teeth are chattering and you're just like, yeah,
Yeah.
calling it a day.
Yeah. That's not so much fun there. And
Yeah.
the other thing about this stuff too is it's so sporadic that you never know. They don't definitely come out when you want them to, whatever
No,
it is, right? But
that
it's
friggin' ghost up in Hart.
yeah. Well, you know what? That's an amazing picture, Jason. I seen
Yeah.
that too. At
Yeah.
the time you took it, and I'll tell you, I mean, I know you well enough to know that you didn't Photoshop that in there. But if I
I don't
didn't,
have,
that's what
I
I'd
don't
be
have the
saying.
technical. I can barely run a Zoom meeting, but
I'd be accused of the same thing if I had this picture was spoofed. They'd be like, "Well, we know we didn't Photoshop it. We know
yeah,
that."
I tried, like, I would love for it to be disproved. I mean, I would love for someone to say, oh, this is what happened and this is what, but I've taken
Yeah,
shit. I've taken, oh man, it's got to be at least 40 to 50 pictures
yep.
at the same spot since it's happened, and nothing.
Trying to duplicate something, a reflection of light or a weird angle
Yeah.
or a tree stump or yeah,
Yeah.
no, that looks like the way a little boy would dress like years ago, you know.
Yeah. And we had Elliot. Elliot sent it to a lady he knows who specializes in that kind of stuff.
Yep.
The same thing. She said, this looks like a legit photo. There's no
Yeah.
of anything. And like, it's just weird because
Yep.
it's literally a black figure and
Yep.
his head. And I know, like, when I zoom in on it, it's not so clear. So whatever, one of the group members that zoomed in on it and sent it, it looks pretty clear. But I mean,
Yep.
it wasn't, it could have been, they may have darkened it a little bit, but
Right.
a black figure standing in the graveyard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't, you can sharpen it up, you can clear it up, but it's still a dark figure that was just standing there in my picture randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just such an interesting topic to look into. There's no real harm in it unless you summons a demon or whatever. Like, I
That's
could
right,
do
yeah.
that when I tried to log onto this tonight. I'm pretty sure I thought I was going to summon one.
There's a demon in your basement now.
But
Wondering why the hell he got there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Zoom
But,
demon. Yeah.
it'd be good too to my belief. One thing that I know from just being really interested in all this subject matter.
Yeah.
One thing I'll tell you that I've really picked up on, if I've learned anything over the years, the paranormal stuff is if you want to go like where we talked about, it's very sporadic for something to come around or for you to see something or whatever. It is
Yeah.
one exception to that rule that I think is that you mess with a Ouija board, you
Yeah.
invite it in right away.
Yeah.
That's my opinion of just basically through a personal experience.
Yeah.
And also just through tuning into the stuff for years, right, and listening to
Yeah.
people. But if that's how you would do it, and I'll tell
Yeah.
you, it's not always great. It's not fun when the real thing happens. It's really not. It's extremely disturbing. It's
That's what I
upsetting,
mean. Yeah.
and you wish you would call it back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I know, like personally, like, and I've said this since we started, I'm not a huge believer in the Ouija board, but
yep, yep,
I know people, and I have really good friends who swear they've had these experiences. They tell me the story. I'm like, all right, there's
yep,
something to it, but I'm not.
yep.
Maybe it's because I'm scared. Like,
It's good to be scared of it. And
that's
I
what
mean,
I'm
all
saying.
it is,
I don't want to frig around with that because my luck,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden my eyes are black and I'm eating the neighbor's dog. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
yeah.
I'm
Honest to God, yeah, yeah,
not ready to take that chance. But no, this is great, and this is what it's for, right? And
yeah, yeah,
and again, going back to that picture again, like I honestly, I can't remember how to send these files. Like, I send them to Doug, and Doug will do his magic because he's the wizard.
yeah,
But yeah, like I had trouble setting up the Zoom meeting And like, I just mastered copy and paste like a year ago, but like
exactly. Yeah.
There's no way I photoshopped any picture.
No, I know what you mean. And the other
Yeah.
thing was too, it wasn't the focal point of your picture. It wasn't in the middle.
No,
It was
not at
just
all.
something that you had picked up, right? So
I
yeah,
wasn't even investigating. Like there was no, I mean, I have Echo Box on my phone constantly because it's on there, but I wasn't using.
yeah,
I was taking a picture of Stuart McLennan's grave to, local historian,
yeah,
politician, really nice house in Petersfield. Like this is who he is. And that's why I took the picture. And
yep,
there's almost immediately um, two girls on the page.
yep.
Remember now, obviously, but they immediately picked up. They're like, "Who's that in the background?" I'm like,
Oh,
I mean, my wife and because I talked to my wife about it because she's a huge skeptic.
yeah.
When she saw this, she's like, "I don't know what to tell you," but she said, all of us went up, like myself, my wife,
Yep,
son and daughter, but they had walked away to leave me to do my thing because it's a graveyard.
yep.
Daddy loves graveyards. So
Yeah,
that's what I did, and they had all walked down, and there was an older couple with, I would say, their granddaughter, and they had
yep.
across there maybe 5 minutes prior.
Mhm.
They were well out of the picture. I mean, they were up to the side of the graveyard by the time I took that picture.
Yeah,
But I mean, you zoom in, it doesn't even look like I sent Archie down there and took a picture of him down there just to kind of get.
right. Yep, as a
It's
comparison,
not.
yeah,
It's not human.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's not.
yeah. No, that's really creepy. Yeah,
Yeah. And we still have.
yeah,
I know we always say like we're gonna get to this and got it. It's so hard with work and
yeah,
movies and winter coming
yeah,
and
yeah,
I mean if I had the time and the money and the resources like you and I have talked about before,
yeah.
that'd be the full-time job.
Oh God, absolutely. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
too interesting, right? Like it's
It's
just, yeah.
too
What
many unknowns.
fascinates, yeah, and what fascinates me is not that I'm after, I'm all about chasing unicorns and whatnot, right? Not, maybe on Sunday I'd about that,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
but
yeah,
the rest of the week. But there's too many credible people, right, that are out there saying, look, this is what happened to me. It's totally unexplainable and whatnot, and that there just it can really hook onto you, right, and grasp you, and when you've had a few experiences yourself, you
yeah.
don't you really stick around and you listen, right? You don't dismiss these people. So, yeah,
Oh, 100%.
yeah,
And that's what
absolutely,
we're laughing.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, I know. And I know what you mean. Like, and whether it's the paranormal or whether it's, like Bigfoot or Dogman, like
it's all awesome.
that's what I'm saying. But there's millions and millions of sightings all over the world. And
Yep,
many with like because you and we talk Bigfoot, we talk Dogman.
yep,
A lot of those experiences are very similar. So
very much so.
when you got a
Yep,
fella in Brazil in the rainforest who sees one, who compares it to, a fella in Kentucky
yep,
who's out, out hunting and he sees the exact same,
yep,
has the exact
exactly. One guy that doesn't even know what the internet is, who's describing the exact same thing as a fella in Texas. Yeah,
exactly, exactly.
yeah. There's
I
got to
mean,
be something to it. Yeah,
exactly. And you can say, sure,
yep,
these 20% people, they're out of their minds. But I mean, when, like you said,
yeah,
Dogman, there's a judge who has absolutely nothing to lose by telling a tale about seeing a dogman, but yet they're
yeah,
in the story, right?
yeah. Risking his credibility and whatnot.
That's
But
what I
he's
mean,
just said,
because most of the times people think you're crazy,
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah,
but an awful lot of
yeah,
us, we're all here,
yeah.
not all there.
Oh, it's okay to be a weirdo. That's all right.
That's what
Once
I'm
you get
saying.
to a certain age and that too, you say, you know what, piss on them. I'm going to be a weirdo.
That's right.
This is what I like. It's just
Yeah.
it's just so interesting, some of it, right? Like you could be cool about it and be like,
Yeah.
like the way I look at it too. Like I often said, like of course I'm interested in this stuff. Well, yeah, you have to give evidence if you're a skeptic too. You
That's
can't
right.
just be cool about it and say, yeah, you're crazy. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Okay, well, geez, go further with that for me, please. Like, tell me how all these people can be hallucinating, how they're all on drugs, how they
Mhm.
weren't at that place where they say they were, how they're totally lying, how they
Yeah.
took the time to confess all these stories, and they're all pathological liars. In order to be a skeptic, you need to work just as hard as someone that's kind of on the other side believing too, right? not fair that you just get to walk in and say, oh, that's a bunch of hogwash and all that, and be cool about it and walk away.
Right.
No, I'm going to ask you to. I'm going to ask you some questions. And if you can convince me, like totally, then geez, I'll go that way too, and I'll be on the other side of the fence making fun of you weirdos.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Like I say, it's good to be a
the,
skeptic.
the best, Jason, I just want to say real quick, was about 2 years ago that we were in one of the cemeteries there just for fun, and I was tagging along with you. And it was late at night, and the crows were everywhere, real spooky atmosphere. And
Oh,
I'll never forget.
yours,
And
right?
this yeah. And
Yeah.
this truck comes walking up the side of the road and starts being a bit of an a-hole, going boo like this. Right? And me being the devil I am, I look at him, and I look at him right in the eyes, right? And I'm just staring at him, and I said, "You can see me." I had him off his guard for all of about 2 seconds before he told me to F off, and but
Yeah. Yeah, as you run screaming into the night.
yeah, absolutely. But
And
no,
that's usually
yeah,
what happens, right?
yeah,
You know,
for sure.
you tell
But
people that you do this stuff, or you like
yeah,
it, and they're like, you're either nuts or they want to tell you a story.
yeah, honest to God, that's true.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true, very true.
And that's
Yeah.
even when I go around to like visit my stores, like I tell
Yep.
what I do is, in my spare time, and some of them, they don't really care. Well, whatever, that's what it is, right? But then there's other ones who are like, oh, have you ever heard of this? Or have you ever,
Right.
or
Yeah.
when you come up here, can
Yeah.
come with you, and we'll, so it's that, right? And
Absolutely.
I've come to the age where I don't really give a shit what people think.
Yeah, no, you're not hurting anybody. It's just it's a hobby.
Exactly.
It's something that's grown widely more tolerated, acceptable, because people are just getting better. I think you know
Yeah.
what I mean. That
Look,
stuff, right?
yeah, TV shows,
Yeah,
podcasts, and millions of people who believe, right?
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
think the internet had a lot to do with that, because now people can share their stories. You know what I mean? Years ago, I mean, you had something like that happen, you just keep it to yourself, and
Yeah.
you wouldn't dare share it. Now you got that, what do you call it, anonymity or something, like to be anonymous and
Oh,
get it out there, right, on the internet, and
that's Reddit's
so,
full of them, right?
yeah,
You share your experiences, or record this, or send it to this podcaster, and
absolutely,
yeah. So it's so easily accessible now, and yeah,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
excited, and I'm excited to keep going with it. And we got 4 minutes left, but
yep,
nice to, like say, it'd be nice to get out to Broughton and do that stuff, and like you said,
for sure,
circling back to the dog man.
yeah.
Well, I think 4 or 5 people have come forward with similar stories to Brandon's. So I mean, that's
Yeah, that was unexpected. I didn't expect that. But then
no,
all of a sudden, when you get people kind of discreetly messaging you saying, "Hey, like, I want to tell you about something about this weird bear that I've seen in my backyard." That you know
yeah,
what I mean? That's kind of interesting. Yeah.
no, and I mean and the people. It's nice because they'll send me a DM, right? They'll direct message me and say, like,
Yep.
I didn't want to post this on there, but this is my friend who saw this, and he doesn't like to talk about
Right. Yeah.
and we're kind of like, you and I and Brandon talked about this, like,
Yeah.
going out there and talking to them is coming up. Like it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And investigating that cemetery, because I think there's some sort of weird connection. That's just my own thoughts, but there seems
It
to
really sounds like it. Yeah.
yeah. No, I can't wait for that, man. I'm excited for
It
that.
has all the right ingredients of a dog man encounter. That's for all the stories that I've heard and whatnot. So,
And
like I say, I hope you're a fast runner, because I'm on your back, brother. I'll tell you if I see something. I'm a fat guy. I mean, I could knock over about 2 or 3 dudes.
the adrenaline kicks in, but we'll be back to the car in no time.
I suppose you better actually have it running with the door open just in case, right? Yeah. Some glow sticks on the ground so I know where to run. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And get me to the nearest Tim Hortons. I'm going to need a double glass and cream staff.
Yeah. Honestly,
Yeah,
but you know what though? No matter how scared we are, at least one of us got to snap a picture. So I'm gonna nominate you for that. You can be the guy.
I'll try my best, man. I can't say how accurate. I'll be some audio at least anyway. screaming away.
Me screaming with a weird custard sound at the end. Yeah, that'd be the audio for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, no, the audio wouldn't be good. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
anyway, this has been awesome, man.
yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah.
it's been a while. I've been wanting to hear this story and say
Yeah,
I don't know how to, like, Anchor is a whole different animal.
yeah,
You can only go on to Anchor to make a podcast, and then you send it to
right.
Spotify. And if you don't have a Spotify account, which you have to pay for monthly, you can't listen to the podcast. So I mean, there's that.
Right.
You know,
Right.
there's a lot of people on the group that don't have access to Spotify and won't be able to.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah.
But I mean, it's almost at 70 listens now on the Dogman and the Glenn Morrison episode.
Okay, right. Yeah.
Not terrible. It's moving along a little bit.
Yeah. And you know what, too? I think you and I had mentioned one day a couple interesting shows shot in Nova Scotia. They're not necessarily about Nova Scotia, but I think it's Terror in the Woods. These
Yes.
Woods Are Haunted.
Yeah.
Something else. If you can get a few of those shows, they were pretty well done, and they're like testimonials of people that
Yeah.
saw some weird, creepy
Dude.
stuff in the woods, and there's nothing better than getting a cup of tea or whatever, right? Turning those
Yep.
on.
Those shows are good, and actually, we're running out of time. But those shows are you can get like full episodes on YouTube.
Oh, okay, right.
Oh, you
Yep.
can, and there's a channel. I think it might be Discovery.
Yeah.
If you get Discovery, I think their seasons are on there.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. Anyway, but we got to wrap her up now, pal. So again,
Yes, sir.
and we'll get this posted up so everyone can enjoy it. At least 10 or 20 people.
Yeah,
Enjoy it, right?
sure. Well, yep, absolutely. Why not? If anything, it's got some entertainment value to it.
Absolutely. All right, pal. Cheers. And
You take care.
take care.
All
Bye.
right. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.